Let's bring in national security expert Jason Beardsley. He's the national executive director for the Association of the U.S. Navy. Jason, good to have you with us. So Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he believes accusations that Russia is committing war crimes in Ukraine. Let's take a listen.
We've seen very credible reports of deliberate attacks on civilians, which would constitute a war crime. We've seen very credible reports about the use of certain weapons.
So he's echoing what we're actually hearing from Ukrainians firsthand. If the U.S. believes the reports are credible, what should the U.S. do about it? What are the options?
Well, this is a pretty tough place that the United States has gotten itself into, because we've said very vociferously we are not putting troops into contact, and we're not going to enforce a no-fly zone. The most you've seen from the White House, and this has been a consistent message, is that we may supply some lethal munitions, or we may help in the humanitarian cause. But even once they come to the conclusion that there may be war crimes committed, the State Department doesn't have much wiggle room, based on what the White House has been saying, to do more than what they've already done. Sanctions, different things. But here's where they can start. We can start by stopping the purchase of Russian oil that's going on every day, and fueling what the Russians are doing on the ground. That'd be the first move that I would look for.
Here's something else happening that's sort of intriguing. The U.S. is exploring how to send Soviet-era fighter jets to Ukraine. Help us understand, what's the strategy behind this? Why not just send more modern American jets?
Well, this is a sort of an indirect sort of support. So Poland has offered to place Russian-era or Soviet-era MiGs in the hands of Ukrainians. What they would look for is the United States to guarantee backfilling those aircraft with F-16s or something more modern from the United States arsenal. That's a pretty good deal. Even though they're Soviet-era, we're still flying Soviet-era airplanes as well. So if we can get equipment, lethal means, especially for air reinforcement to the Ukrainians, they've been pretty good at air defense on their own. They just need the gear and the equipment. Doesn't matter that it's a little bit old. They need to take control of their skies. If we're not going to do it, we being the United Nations or NATO.
The latest we've heard of the situation there, a senior U.S. military official says about 95% of the combat power that Russia had initially lined up along the border for all those weeks has now been moved into Ukraine. We know this invasion is taking longer than Russia planned, but how much longer do you think Ukraine can continue to hold out and fight?
Well, Ukraine can hold out for quite a long time. We saw that in Iraq and Afghanistan with overwhelming superior numbers, forces, equipment, logistics. The United States was bogged down for 20 years, both in Baghdad and Kabul. And as you could see, the harassment, the interdiction, the guerrilla warfare, insurrection can go on for decades. What the Russians did was gambled that this would be a quick strike. They would get in there and cause the government to flee, install a pro-Putin government. That did not happen. Now they're stretched out. They have to supply every one of those tanks with fuel. They have to supply the troops with food, medical aid. That gets difficult, especially in the interior portions. So that's why you're seeing a lot more successes in the east, which was already sort of under nominal Soviet or Russian control, the Donbass region, and in the south, where they can supply from Crimea and from the ocean. That's another thing the United States can do, is patrolling the high seas outside the Dardanelles Straits in Turkey and in the Black Sea. We've got American vessels that are steaming from the Med that direction, and that's a good way to put pressure on Putin.
All right, Jason Beardsley, thanks so much for your analysis. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.